Okay, everybody, we should be live on air now, and I just would like you to, if you could check in the chat box if you can hear me and see me, or see the glider, the slide, so that I know it's working. If you could put that in the chat, that would be great. So I'm not getting any answers from any of you. Maybe it's not working. So I'm just going to go ahead and start this webinar today on Ljomandi Heilsuviska number 2, where we're going to dive right into what is the second largest mistake that health conscious women make. Oh, excellent. Great. You can see me here. When they are wanting to have a healthier lifestyle, but they get so confused and exhausted by all this, learning all the different things and trying to put it all together, that they're just about to give up. Okay, so what is the second largest mistake? So the second biggest mistake is that, oops, gotta go to the right one, is that when you make choices, you tend to do them haphazard instead of strategic. And I've tried to pick some pictures that shows what haphazard means and strategic. So haphazard means it's like kind of all in a bit confused mess. You hear about something, you do that, then you give up after a couple of weeks, and then you hear about something else, you read something in the papers, and your friend is telling you about something, and there's something on TV. Whereas a strategic is where you really sit down and think through, okay, these are my health struggles, and really get a clear overview of what's going on, and then choose, make a plan that really addresses those health issues and really focus on them. And it might take a longer time to make this plan than just jump on something spur of the moment, but it gives way the better results when you go for the long-term approach. So how do you do this? How do you figure out how to make a plan for yourself? Well, as I talked about last time, is that in natural medicine, you look at the whole person in a whole life context. So we just don't go in and look at our symptoms. We try to look behind the symptoms and figure out where it's coming from. And one structured approach that we use is the wise woman approach. And there are 5 levels to this approach. And this is a more, it's a gentler way. It's a more respectful to your own body way. And it's also a way where you kind of start from the bottom and sort of build your way up to stronger and stronger levels of intervention, or stronger and stronger levels of medicine. So the first level is where we always start when we have a health problem, is what is the lesson? So why do we have this health problem? Where did it come from? What in our life, our lifestyle created it? And what can you learn? What can you learn from having lost your health? And I think I shared with you last time that many people who have had very difficult health problem, for example cancer, they often end up feeling blessed for the gift having cancer gave them. Because with the cancer, they have to go in and sort of revisit all the choices they have made in their life, and they realize, well, there's a lot of things, a lot of choices they had made that they are not actually so happy about, but they just kind of automatically keep on doing them and never really stop to ask themselves, is this really what I want? So a health problem comes also when we let ourselves go away from what is our best living. Last time I talked about the unity of disease and health, that all illnesses happens when we have incorrect living, and we return to health when we return to correct living. And of course, what is correct living for you might not be correct living for me. There are things in general, but then there's also our individual differences. And then we ask, how have we been untrue to ourselves? How have we ignored the truth of our bodies? When has our bodies been screaming a message to us and we have chosen to ignore it and just bully right through our body? You know, how have you created your illness? So there are many different things to look at when we look at how did this come about. I'm just going to go through a few of them, which relates back to the questions that I asked you at the end of last time. So sleep. One day in class a couple of years ago, I decided to ask my students how many of those thought that sleep was the waste of time. And every single one of them put up their hands. And I was kind of shocked at how common it was to consider sleep a waste of time. So there is a saying that I came across in an article several years ago, that stress is the main cause of illness, and the main cause of stress is not getting enough sleep. And what is interesting about the whole sleep concept, actually here's another interesting thing, is that of all the research that is done on health and all the things that has to do with the body, very, very, very little research has been done on the sleep. And you just don't know why, because we spend a third of our lives sleeping. So why do people not pay attention to it? So what is interesting about sleep is that you have these different sleep cycles where you go very deep and then you come up to a shallow sleep and then you go deep again. So we have different sleep cycles during the night. The first 2 or 3 hours, those sleep cycles has to do with rejuvenating the body, like re-energizing and restoring and maybe healing the body, because sleep is a great healer. And the rest of the sleep has to do with your mental health. So in these sleep cycles, what your subconscious does is go back through your past, especially what happened the day before, and sort through all the information that came through you, through your experiences. And sort through them, what do you need to hold on to and what do you want to let go of? So for example, if you were out bicycling yesterday and you had a great fall on your bicycle, what you want to hold on to is how to bicycle, but you don't need to hold on to how exactly to fall off your bicycle. You might want to know how to avoid it, but all the details in it are sort of irrelevant for the rest of your life. So, and also if you're going to school, your subconscious will sort through which of the learnings you had are you going to hold on to, and what of the things that happened the day before are unimportant and then you can let go of. The very last sleep cycle, and this is the one that we often deprive ourselves of, this is the one we most often don't get, is where you create your own future. So the very tail end of your sleep, right before you're completely rested, this is where your subconscious creates your future. And it's kind of sad that that's the one we are depriving ourselves of, that we don't allow ourselves to get this tail end of sleep, because that will make our life so much easier if we allowed our subconscious to go out and create the future we desire, so that we don't have to struggle so hard. Successful people, research has shown, they make sure to get enough sleep. And maybe this is something we can learn, that if we want to have a great quality of life, we need to get our sleep. And you all know how you feel if you only get like 6 hours sleep for 3 nights going, then you definitely need your coffee, and your eyes feel very sandy, and you start not being able to concentrate on things, and you kind of lose your joy in life also. And I don't know about you, but when I get sleep deprived, not having had enough sleep for a while, I lose my motivation, I lose my enthusiasm for all the things I'm doing. So I have really learned to prioritize in getting enough sleep, so that when I wake up, I have a great day instead of just existing through the day or suffering through the day until I can go to sleep again. What happens physically when you don't get enough sleep is that the body creates, I believe it's hormones, a kind of hormones, and they are actually toxic to the body. So as you keep being short on sleep and day after day after day, you start poisoning your own body, basically. You increase the level of the toxicity in your body. And what you also do, that you start pulling on your adrenals, your nirnahettur, and you ask them to give you more energy and give you more energy and give you more energy. And when you don't have that energy, you start going into coffee and sugar. So I don't know about you, but I know that when I'm tired or haven't gotten enough sleep, those are the only times ever I feel a craving for sugar or coffee. It's like my body knows it's tired, and when my mind wants to keep on going, it's sugar and coffee, instead of just saying, hey, my body is telling me, take a break. Okay, the world is not going to come to an end because I lie down and take half an hour nap. And if I allow myself to take that break, it's like I'm totally good to go again. So my wish for you is that you start getting enough sleep into your body. It really makes a huge difference. Now, the same group of students that I asked how many of them thought sleep was a waste of time, just a few months ago, when they were about halfway to the school, I asked them again. Actually, I didn't ask them specifically about sleep. I asked them what one thing about, no, sorry, I'm wrong here. I asked them how many of them have started taking sleep more seriously. And I got some hands up, and some people said they were still working on it. But what was interesting is that one of our students says, of all the things she had done to heal her body, the one thing that made the biggest difference was going to sleep at 10 o'clock every night. She totally credited the healing of her body to just doing that. So here's some inspiration for you. Maybe you want to try it out. So health truth number 4, you need sleep. Your body needs sleep. Your mind needs to sleep. All of you needs to sleep for your past, for your future, and for your body to heal itself and rebuild itself and re-energize itself. The next thing the body needs is water. The body is made about 70% water, and all that water is being used for the digestive system. It's used in the blood flow. It's having to do with the oxygen in the blood. It has to do with your skin, how it looks. It has to do with how the heart works. Like everything in the body has to do with the water. Most people in the Western world are chronically dehydrated. They have too little water in their bodies. And just a little bit of dehydration, even just 2% of dehydration, you get the headache, which is what we most associate with the dehydration. But you also start getting what's called a brain fog. Like you basically get stupider. You lose your ability to think, to figure things out. And it was really brought home to me. I think the second year we were running the school, I had been so busy with classes and driving our teachers around that I had forgotten to drink a lot for the last few days. So I had to add two simple numbers. I think it was 1500 and 1700 or something like that. And I could not figure out what these two numbers added together was. And usually I'm really, really good with numbers. So I had to ask Lilia to tell me what that number was. And that was such a wake-up call that how much intelligence really goes down when I don't get enough water in my body. So you also get fatigue, tiredness. So water is a great source of energy, and it gives you a boost of energy. So the tiredness we feel as we go through the day has very much to do with dehydration. When we use our body and go around, and many of us, we are in very, very dry rooms and buildings, we lose water from our bodies, and it also makes us tired. We lose energy. So maybe instead of having coffee at 3 o'clock, maybe you need to drink 3 big glasses of water and just really get the water thing going. I made an experiment one summer a couple of years ago and decided I was going to drink 4 liters of water every single day, and I measured it out. And I looked at all this water and, oh my God, how am I ever going to get through all this water? I also added extra salt to it. And I felt so clean in my body. I felt so energized, and I felt so bright and sharp in my mind that it became something I am very, very conscious of every single day, is getting enough water. So I usually drink about 3 liters of water every day. Now that's very high, and I'm a person who needs a very large amount of water. Not everybody has that, the same big amount. So it's something we have to figure out individually. So how do you figure out how much water you need for yourself? Look at the color of your urine. If it's a dark color, like dark yellow or orange, you need more water in your body. Your urine should be close to colorless when you have enough water in your body. Now, if you're thirsty, you are already dehydrated, so you want to drink before you get thirsty. And then there's another thing that in our Western world is that many people, when they get thirsty, they misinterpret or misunderstand the message from their body. They believe they're hungry, so they go and eat something. Going back to the 3 o'clock in the afternoon kind of tiredness, what happens when you drink coffee? Coffee is very dehydrating. It actually takes more liquid out of your body. So for every cup of coffee you drink, you will need to drink 2 glasses of water to make up for the loss of liquid. There's a story, there's a book that's called The Body's Many Cries for Water. And it's a story about a doctor. He was probably, I believe he was from Iraq, and he got a doctor's education in England, probably in Oxford. And then he went back to Iraq to practice medicine. And then they had the war that started there. And when the war started, he was captured and put in jail. And there were so many people in the jail that they were like packed, like sardines in a can. So at any given time, only 1/3 of them could lie down to sleep. Actually, 1/3 had to sit and another 1/3 had to stand. So you can just imagine the horror of being in that prison. Now, as I talked, the prisoners figure out that he was a doctor. So of course, when there's a health problem, they would go to the doctor and say, what do I do? So there's this another prisoner, he comes and asks the doctor, I have this terrible bug fly there, heartburn. What can I do? Of course, this poor doctor, he has nothing. He has nothing. He has no medicine. He has no food. He has access to absolutely nothing. So he tells the man, drink water. And as the man starts drinking water, his health problem disappears. He stops having the bug fly, the heartburn. It goes away just by drinking water. So this doctor, he's very smart. He said, oh, this is very interesting. So as he spends more and more time in prison, you know, as the months goes by, I think he was there for a total of 1 year, and all he had to treat people with was water. He realized that just giving people water had a tremendous healing effect on people's illnesses. So after he came out of prison, he kind of made that his life mission to study this and to teach people how important it is to drink enough water. So he found that dehydration is present in most chronic illnesses. A woman came to me at one point for some counseling. She was feeling very, very depressed because she had cancer and her husband had cancer. And she came just at the time when I was learning this about the water. So just out of curiosity, I asked her, you know, how much water do you drink? And she said, well, she never really drank any water at all, but if she had something, it would maybe be 1 glass a week. And this had been for the last 50 years. She was probably in her early 60s. And I really took notice about that. You know, could that be part of why she had the cancer? Maybe, maybe not. But there is this association with not having enough water in your body and chronic illnesses. So one of our students, she called me, you know, at one time and was talking about all these symptoms, all these aches and pains and this and that was wrong with her body, that no matter how many herbs she took and how she changed her diet, she couldn't really get rid of them. So again, she called me just at the time I was studying this water thing, and I just asked her, you know, well, how much water do you drink? Well, I never drink any water. So we decided to do a test where she would just start drinking 2, 3, 4 liters of water every day. And what happened was all her health problems disappeared just from drinking water. So remember, most people in the West, they don't get enough sleep and they don't get enough water. And those are just 2 very, very, very basic, very, very foundational lifestyle choices we can make to help us just have great energy and have no health problems. And it is so simple, and it doesn't cost you anything. So my personal wish is that everybody would get enough sleep and have enough water in their body, and everything would change. Now, for those of you who have parents, maybe on an ældre heimili, an older people's home, what often happens in those places is, as the elder people, they become senile, they become more forgetful and disappear into their own world, they stop drinking water. Now, there was a woman at one point, and her parent, I can't remember, it was her father or mother, who was in the ældre heimili, the older people's home. And she had noticed that her parents' health was going down and down and down. And of course the staff there, they wanted to put her parent on medication, but she said, no, I'm just going to start with giving him water, or her water. And as it happened with my student, as soon as her parents started getting enough water in his or her body again, all the symptoms went away. So older people, because nobody thinks about giving them enough water, they are very, very often severely dehydrated. And remember what I said about not having enough water in your body kind of makes you a little bit stupid, you can't think straight. What happens to older people you know, if this is what they're already struggling with, and the lack of water makes it even worse. So these are just things to think about the amount of water in your body. So health truth number 5 is you won't have your health and your energy and your radiant life energy without enough water in your body. Now remember, the right amount for you is individual, and if you want to add a lot of water into your daily intake, it would be good to add another 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of high quality salt to hold the water. And if you do it, send us an email, you know, what changed, and put it on Facebook, because I think it's something very, very important that many people don't know about. So if you go to the next thing, it's just stress. We have all heard a million of times that being stressed is bad for you. And it does all kind of things to your body. You know, you get all tight in your muscle, you stop breathing deep, you start gasping for air, your mind skitters around and going in a million directions at once, you can't fall asleep at night, you get muscle aches, you get cramps, you get backaches. Stress is not something we want. So when you look at the lifestyle, how did I create my illness? Now look at what are the stress levels in your life, and how can you simplify your life? Like we all believe that we have to do, and we have a tendency out of, you know, to take on more things than we really have the time and energy to do. And just a lot of things that can build up the stress levels in our life. And we also have choices that sometimes we can choose away things that we maybe hadn't realized right away that were choices we had. So I'm a great believer in simplifying your life. I don't have to do everything. I don't have to say yes when somebody asks me something. I don't have to go somewhere just because I'm invited. I work very consciously on keeping my stress level down, because I know that when my stress levels go up, it is fun for a day or so to be busy, but if it continues, I stop enjoying my life. And I'm not willing to any longer go through my days without enjoying my life. I want to have enthusiasm, I want to have motivation, I want to have happiness, I want to feel contentment, and I want to feel there is a high quality to my life. And also, I just want to have enough time and energy to be there for my son. So health truth number 6 is stress and health cannot coexist. You can't have both of them. If you have stress, you cannot have health. So if you are overwhelmed, going in too many directions at once, or maybe ever had this feeling of being like a robot, that when you jump out of bed in the morning, you push the on button, and then you on till you push the off button at night and you collapse back into bed. And you just never have enough time to get everything done, and the to-do list is like way too long. So again, how can you simplify your life so that you have time to be a human being instead of being a human being, or a human doing? We are human beings, we are not human doings. We have to live a human life and not live the rat race. Okay? So again, how can you simplify? Where do you have choices? How can you create a better lifestyle for yourself that supports your health? Now the last part I want to talk about here is the emotional roots of physical problems. So research is showing more and more, and is coming more and more to the conclusion that maybe as much as 90% of physical problems have an emotional root. And that's typically some kind of trauma, but it doesn't have to be a trauma as we think of trauma. It can just be a continuous process of, I'll say, dysfunctional family experiences. So I have, of course, my own experience with this. that one of the classes I took for the school to learn more about naturopathy was how to use essential oils for emotional healing. So emotional healing and the psychology stuff and working with energies is very much my area of expertise. So I wanted to learn not just how to use the essential oils for physical problems, but how to use them for emotional problems. So before coming to this class, I had to do some homework, and one of the homeworks was to take one of our physical problems and do some research, figure out what was the emotional cause of that problem, and choose an oil, an essential oil that will address the emotional root of that problem. So I had just figured out that I had hypothyroid, and I believe it's a vanvirskjalkirtel. So I did some research, and I figured out that the issue, the emotional issue behind it was accomplishment, like a frustration with not being able to accomplish enough. And that was very true for my life at that time, because I wanted to put more energy into developing my positive power business, where I help, women outside the school. And somehow I couldn't quite get there because I always had to do so much administrative work for the school. We hadn't quite put all the systems in place that we have in place now. And the essential oil for that was called Highest Potential, which is an oil blend. So that was the only thing I used to heal my hypothyroid. And I believe in 5 or 6 months, it was completely healed, and it hasn't come back. And I started doing the things I was so frustrated about not being able to do. So this is a clear example of how my hypothyroid was more of an emotional problem than a physical problem. And for those of you who know about the chakras, the orkustöðvar, the skjaldkirtel is in the throat chakra, which of course had to do with self-expression, and I couldn't express myself work-wise in the way I wanted to, and that's a really, really important part for me. So of course the frustration was building up. Another story about this, there's a woman named Brandon Bays, and she at one point she had like a tumor in her stomach that was about the size of a baseball, a huge tumor, and she had managed to be in denial about the fact that she had a health problem until finally she just couldn't ignore it. She looked like she was highly pregnant, so she goes to the doctor, and the doctor wants to put her into surgery right away because it's so big. I don't think it was malignant, it was not cancer, it was just a tumor. So Brandon, the woman, she says, nope, I want to have a chance to work on it myself. So she does all the things, she started doing all the things we teach in the school, the herbs and the litemnegreining, the iridology, the working with the food, and all those things. And in four weeks, now listen to this, 4 weeks it got as small as a tennis ball. So in 4 weeks it got from a baseball size, which is probably a handball size, down to the size of a tennis ball. That's a huge reduction in the tumor. And then it kind of stagnated. Now Brandon was very smart. She had already begun to work on her emotional issues. So she kept digging into what's going on. I want to heal this. I want to heal this tumor. So she goes to a therapist and goes to a session where she goes back to a very, very highly abusive, highly traumatic experience in her past that she had worked on before. She has been there several times in therapy and worked on the issue, and she believed it was all gone. But what turned out was that she had never forgiven her abusers. And that was the last thing that was sitting in her cells, causing her tumor to be there. was that she hadn't forgiven. So as soon as she forgave the people who abused her, the rest of the tumor disappeared. So within a 6-week time, a handball-sized, a baseball-sized, basketball-sized tumor completely disappeared. And there was a big part of it was just healing the emotional cause of this. Now, 2 people who have done a lot of research on this is Bruce Lipton and Candice Pert. And they are both biologists, and they are both PhDs. And I know that Bruce Lipton, you can find him on YouTube. And let me just see, I believe I can put this up here in the chat box. Let me see, so you can look him up on YouTube if you want to. He has the most interesting research that he shares in a way that's easy to understand, but where you really get how important our beliefs and our feelings are for our physical well-being. So, the second level of the wise women approach is how much can you do with food? The first level is like, what is the lesson? How did this lack of health come into being? What's the root cause? What did we do with our lifestyle that created us to lose our health? So second level is, how much can you do with food in terms of getting your health back? So the body is a food body. Okay? The body needs food to work just like a car needs benzene to be able to drive. And Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine and medicine thy food. We can do so much with food alone. And there's plenty of stories around everywhere that people who have healed, cancer and all kinds of diabetes and God knows what of difficult and fatal diseases just by changing their food. So food is very, very important. If you think of it, our body is, in essence, a chemical factory. It's a compilation on a very physical level of different chemical reactions. Now, for the body, for our physical health to exist, we need the right kind of chemical reactions to happen in the body. And they can only happen if the right chemical exists. So last time I talked about how we evolved as part of nature. So the right food is pure nature. So when we look at what is the food we need to heal, we need high quality food. And that's a food that is as close to pure nature as we can get. So it's all organic, it's all natural, and it's clean food. And I also believe it's important to get as much food as grows locally as possible because you have it has the right kind of energy for where you live. And what we need to do is take out all the low quality foods, which is like all the white sugar, the white flour, all the stimulants like alcohol and caffeine. We need to take out all the processed food, like all food that has been altered. And then there's a thing that I like to call chemicals masquerading as food. So it's being sold as food, but it really has very, very little to do with food because it's all made in a factory. Remember, our body has not evolved. There hasn't been enough time for our bodies to evolve to be healthy on that kind of food. So yes, you have to work with food and you have to get high quality food into your system and stop all the low quality food. And when I was giving this lecture live last year, of course somebody asked in the audience, what about chocolate? So I would say that chocolate, healthy chocolate, dark chocolate, in moderation can be exactly the right thing for your body sometimes. Okay? Remember, you are a very unique person. You don't have the same body as anybody else out there. So what is right for your body might not be right for somebody else's body. And also, as you live your life, your body changes and what your body needs change. So the right kind of food for you 2 years ago might not be the right kind of food for you today. So if you go to the third level, so health truth number 7 is that you need to eat the food that is optimal for your body if you want radiant health. So if you go to the third level of the wise woman approach is nature as a healer. So when the body gets too far from homeostasis, your body needs extra help. So let me just explain the homeostasis. The homeostasis means that the body always seeks to come to a place of radiant health. That's the correct place for your body to exist, and it would always seeks to go back to this place. But sometimes, because of the wrong food or trauma or whatever, we have come so far back from that place of perfect health, perfect radiant health, that the body cannot get itself back to it, so we need to help it. And that's when we start looking into things like, diets, special diets. So why do we choose special diets? We choose diets to give the digestion a rest, because a lot of the body's energy goes into just digesting food. So if you, for example, go on a juice fast or just a fast, what we call it the great liquid diet, means all your food is blended or juiced. The body doesn't spend so much energy on digestion, and it can turn the energy, use it for healing your metabolism, which your metabolism is really what drives your body. You can start healing your body that way. So there's different kinds of diets. The juice fasting, the water fasting, there's many different ones. I'm not going to go into those. So cleanses is when you really want to help your body detox even more. So for example, you know that your kidneys are not working right. That's one of the things that are happening. So you could do like a ginger and bakstøt on your kidneys. Because what the kidneys does when it's resting on your skin on top of the kidneys, it balances and harmonizes the kidneys. You can do a liver detox, you can do a colon detox, you can do so many different kinds of detoxes, and this is what we call cleanses. And then there are the herbs. Well, let me just talk about this bakstøt, because at one point my kidneys were not doing so good. See, I have the advantage of having tried a lot of these things on my body. So my teacher told me to do this bakstøt. Or I actually talked about how I seemed to have to drink enough water, and my body never quite felt right, no matter how much water I was drinking. I believe it was because I didn't eat the salt either. I was just drinking more water. But even then, nothing ever felt right. So she looked, and I had very puffy eyes in the morning. It's like everything around my eyes was swollen. So she told me that meant that my kidneys were waterlogged. And I think that's from the Ayurvedic medicine. She told me to do the bakstøt. So I did that and put it on my kidneys, slept with it overnight. The 4th night in a row, I had to go up to the toilet, and I peed and I peed and I peed and I peed and I peed. You have no idea how much liquid just went out of my body. And then I was good again. So this was a cleanse for my kidneys. It was a detoxing of my kidneys that helps restore the balance to my kidneys. So herbs, a lot of us think as herbs, jurtir, as being medicinal. Some of them are. Here in the school we use mostly Icelandic herbs. We want to stay local. And most Icelandic herbs are not very strong medicinally. But what they are superfoods for your cells. You don't have to buy things from South America or the Himalaya mountains or from Mexico. You have it in the things that grow here in your very own country, and they're free for you to go out and pick and dry and add to your diet. One of the best one is actually that's very cheap and very easy to come by is brenninella. That's an herb that is very good for everything in your body, and it really does a wonderful job of bringing everything in your body back to balance, besides being highly nutritious. Now, if you want to get the brenninella, you have to get it in the early spring, probably this time of the year. So if you can find it around and dry it, and just drink 3 cups of brenninella tea every single day, and as you keep on doing it, you will really feel your health changing. So I'm going to speed up a little bit because I'm always saying too much. So health tools number, oops, sorry, I'm too fast here. Essential oils is ilmkjarnaoljur. What they're doing, they are actually not oils, they are alkaloids, alcohols that are squeezed out of the plants. Now, what happens when the body gets more toxic? We start losing the cell receptors get all messed up, and the body just kind of get all confused about what it's supposed to be doing. So what the ilmkjarnaolja are able to do is kind of get all this confusion sorted out of the body, so it starts sending the right messages to the right places, and it begins to function right again. And they work really, really well, so we definitely use those also as an added thing to help bring the body back to homeostasis. And I shared the story of my hypothyroid, my vanvyrskjaldkirtel, and this is what I use, the essential oils, to help with the wrong programming that happened in my hypothyroid. So we also use the blómadropa, which is vibrational medicine, just like homeopathy. It's vibrational. It works on an energy level by setting up a resonance between the remedy and your own energy field. And the blómadropa, they address specifically emotional and mental and spiritual healing. So here we have something from nature that can work on the underlying emotional roots. And of course, here in Iceland, we have these phenomenal, powerful blómadropa that Kristbjörg Kristbjörnsdóttir makes, and she comes into the school and teaches them, and they're totally awesome. And the last one is naturopathic treatments. This is where we talk about bakstur, for example. For example, if you have a sore throat, it's very, very good to make a very strong engifer tea. Here we're going back to engifer again. And dip like a cloth, maybe a small towel in it, and wrap it around your neck. So let the heat send that engifer tea into the skin, into your body. So the skin absorbs. So everything you put on your skin goes into your body. And one way to test it is if you take a fresh garlic, cut it in half, and then rub the garlic straight under your feet. In a few minutes, you'll be able to taste the garlic on your tongue. So everything you put on your skin goes into the body, which is why I believe we have to be very, very careful what lotions and creams we choose to put on us, because it goes right into our body. Now, another great naturopathic treatment we can take advantage of in Iceland is hot and cold water. There's something about, the going from cold water to hot water to cold water to hot water that the body absolutely loves. So just taking from warm or hot shower, switch over to a little bit of cold, and I'm not talking ice cold, I'm talking cool. Just going from hot to ice cold is actually not good, but you want to make it cool but not so that your body goes into a shock. And then as you keep going back and forth, you can make it colder and colder every time. And you will feel fantastic afterwards. Which is also a reason why people jump into the ocean all year round, because it feels so good to get this cold water boost. So health truth number 8 is healing is not just one thing. It is not just your body. It's also your mind and your spirits, and it's multi-dimensional, meaning it's not just about exercising and it's not just about sleeping, although those two things are very important. It's everything. You need your food, sometimes you need the herbs, you need the oils, you need to sleep more, you need to drink more water. Maybe you need to set some boundaries with a person, maybe you need to go to a therapist to heal your trauma, or you need to go and work on your medvetni. Everything combines into all of you and your state of health. So the 4th level of the wise woman approach is when we actually go into supplements, and this is when you start taking vitamins and the minerals, and you take amino acids, and you take the enzymes, and you take the phytonutrients, and this is where we look at the things that are created in a laboratory. That's where we go away from pure nature. And sometimes, yes, your body needs that help, and that is totally fine. I'm not going to say so much about it, but it's just that to be aware of that. Yes, sometimes the body needs that amount of health, but that's the 4th level. It's not where we begin. And we don't teach this in the school. We just teach the first 3 levels of the wise woman approach. So the 5th level is Western medicine. And this is when you go to the surgery, and when you have the pharmaceutical medicine, and where you go into the MRIs and the EKG, and really what our whole Western medicine is. And this is where you go when you have a broken bone, or when something is life-threatening, or, you know, there are definitely a right place and time for this. Sometimes it's just crisis aid. You know, you have a real crisis, you need to do something right now. Natural medicine works slower, and sometimes you just need to do something right now. So if you break your leg, you don't take blåmatrova, you go to Sliso. You go to the emergency room and get your leg in a cast. So it's a right place for that. So if I summarize it again, this is the wise woman's approach to heal. Number 1, we start with what's the lesson. Number 2, how much can you do with food? Number 3, nature as a healer. And those are the 3 levels we teach here in the school. Number 4 are the supplements, and number 5 is Western medicine. And when you look at it, just take a look and think how many people do it, start with number 5 and then go to 4 and then 3, 2, 1. They do it the opposite direction. And this is why I said last time that maybe going to the doctor is not the first place you should start, or the first step in healing. Maybe that should be the last step. So it's just something to have in mind. But this is what we do with the school, and I really like this approach because it's very, very respectful to you. Western medicine can be very intrusive and very harsh in many ways. So this is a much gentler way, and it works with you. It doesn't force anything. It takes time. It can be a gentle approach. And what it also does, it heals the cause of your problems, not just your symptoms, as I talked about before. So health truth number 9 is that I would recommend that you choose slow medicine, which is number 1, 2, and 3, before you go into the Western medicine. And see how much you can do it, if you have the time to do it, if it's not life-threatening. And I believe that that's all I have for today. So the next time we meet is 5 dagar 29. maj klukkan 19. And I'm going to go into the 3rd part of the Ljomandi Heilsuviska. And then we will start looking at how can you figure out what is the right thing for you. What is that you need to know to figure out your strategic health plan, as I mentioned in the beginning. So I hope to see you next time. This went a little bit over time, but if you have any questions at all, send them to us on Facebook or send them to us on an email at hms@heilsumeistaraskólinn.com. And I don't know if you got it last time. You were supposed to have gotten the link to the recording, and you should also get it now. And if you don't get the link, you can find us on YouTube. Our account is Heilsumeistaraskólinn, or you can just go to YouTube and put in Ljomandi Heilsuviska, and you should be able to find both the one from last time and this time. So I thank you all for being here with me and staying with me the whole time, and then I look forward to the next chapter of Ljomandi Heilsuviska on 5. daginn næsta. Bye bye.